So with the Nintendo Switch officially being available and sold on the market for a full 5 years now, I think it is a very fitting time to have a discussion on some Wii U games that still need to make it over to the Nintendo Switch platform, as we now clearly approach the back half of the life cycle of the Nintendo Switch. And in today's video, I want to share 5 different games with you that are definitely my top 5 Wii U games that I would like to see come to Nintendo Switch in 2022 and beyond. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. As I mentioned, guys, we're doing a discussion video today around Wii U games that really need to see a second shot at selling on the Nintendo Switch platform. As to give you a very quick walkthrough history, of course, Nintendo launched the Wii U, and it was really their worst marketed console, I think everybody can agree on, as it had the same name of the Wii, and they definitely wanted to capitalize on the success that the Wii found with the broad casual audience, as them focusing on motion controls really brought in all ages and made gaming accessible to all ages. And it's kind of notorious for being the console that got your parents and even your grandparents to play a lot of multiplayer games with you. And obviously, with Nintendo hitting such huge sales numbers such as the 100 million mark with the Wii, they wanted to keep that success going into the successor, and so they named it the Wii U, or the Wii for You is how they marketed it. And of course, it looked very similar to the Wii, although it was a black color. They did have it available in white as well, and I can't remember, I think the white color is just less memory or something like that, and the black color has more internal storage. But regardless, they did market it as a successor, but because it looked very similar and it had the same title, and all you really saw on the trailers was a tablet controller, there was a lot of general confusion from the broader audience around whether or not this was just some kind of controller accessory or if it was a really true next gen version of Nintendo's console. And that's where they fell very short, is how they positioned this and how similar it did look to the Wii, without really showing off how big of a deal that tablet handheld controller actually was, because that was really the big gimmick for the Wii U, and it was very enjoyable in a lot of different games, and something that I would still love to see Nintendo offer in the future, at least optionally as a controller add-on or something. But regardless of what they do going forward, the Wii U sold roughly 13 million plus units in its entire life cycle, which is absolutely, I think you can say, the worst Nintendo home console, at least of all time. But the crazy thing about it is they really did try to focus on their hardcore fan base, and so we got a lot of super quality titles on the Wii U in that roughly 5 years that it was available. That's right, we're in the 5th year of the Switch. The Wii U was available as a whole, or at least marketed as the primary home console from Nintendo, for just 5 years, which is a very short life cycle compared to numerous other systems. But they pretty much had to come out with something new, because the Wii U, by all accounts, was very much considered a failure in terms of dollars and revenue for Nintendo to, of course, be operating for their investors and making profit year over year. That was a dark time for Nintendo in terms of financial success. Well, now you fast forward to 2017, the Switch launches, everything changes. Of course, the Switch starts selling like wildfire, as it is the first real hybrid home console slash portable that you can play the incredible catalog of Nintendo games where however you want to play them. And it's pretty clear now that the Nintendo Switch has a possibility of not only being Nintendo's best home selling console ever, but potentially the actual best home selling console of all time, which it needs to hit roughly 140 million units to do, which is a super crazy high number. But it looks like, by all accounts, as long as Nintendo doesn't surprise split the generation on us anytime coming soon, like, we should be on track to see the Switch officially take the crown of the best-selling home console ever. So clearly, as Nintendo fans, we are in a different environment today than we were in the Wii U era. And so to kick off our little top 5 list of games that I still think need to have a second shot to sell, some of which way more than others, because this list would be a lot larger, but you know, Nintendo does know that they flopped with the Wii U and that they had a small install base, and they have ported over a lot of the Wii U library already, and in most, if not all cases, those games get a second life and sell significantly better than they ever did on the Wii U. And Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the perfect example, as that's literally tracking to be one of Nintendo's best-selling games of all time ever, period. And that's literally a Wii U port that was originally released in 2014. 2014. Of course, they did bundle in the DLC, and now fast forward into 2022 and we get the announcement that that game's going to see support all the way through the end of 2023, making it essentially a 10-year Mario Kart project, which is like nobody would have guessed that that was going to happen when that game first launched on the Wii U, but here we are today and it is a reality. And so to kick off the top 5 list today, and these aren't necessarily in exactly the order of my hype and anticipation, although I think you guys will know the big 2 ones that we'll say for the end are the biggest hype and anticipation ones for me, but we have to kick it off with STARFOX Zero. And I think that this game is something that would be hard to bring to the Switch, just honestly because it relied very heavily on that second screen mechanic in terms of the gameplay at its core. And while you could definitely redesign it, and I think a redesigned control scheme for this game is really the main thing it would need to attract a broader audience, and there's a lot of STARFOX fans that grew up like I did in the SNES and N64 era and kind of saw the heyday of STARFOX. Then of course we got Star Fox 64 3D released on the 3DS and Star Fox Adventures on the GameCube. Like that definitely was a different style Star Fox game, but over the course of the years we've had some super quality Star Fox releases, and I love space shooter combat personally, and I think it's a franchise that while STARFOX Zero by all accounts completely flopped, did not sell well at all, still think could do way better. Well, it definitely would do better on the Switch, like there's no way it couldn't, but I do think that if you brought it back currently and remastered it, and honestly they may just need to do a new Star Fox altogether as opposed to go back to Zero, but I still think that a lot of fans would enjoy a game like STARFOX Zero at the end of the day. And while that game I think sold something like 500,000 copies total, and you can still find sealed copies of it today, that's how bad of a flop it was, I would love Nintendo just to give it some kind of second light of day on the Nintendo Switch before the end of its life cycle. Now next up is one that a lot of Xenoblade fans have been asking for this entire time, and I think it makes a ton to bring it over, and of course that is Xenoblade Chronicles X. And while I am not personally the biggest Xenoblade player out there, I intend to get way more immersed in the series over the course of the build up to September, when of course we can expect Xenoblade Chronicles 3 to launch, which is a very hype action RPG. Like I can't wait to check it out, but it's one of those things that this is by all accounts one of the best Xenoblade games ever if you look at review scores and you look at user opinions and things. And it came out on the Wii U and it's been stuck on the Wii U this entire time, so I think that people who want to get exposed to the Xenoblade franchise more, such as myself, need to have an option on the current platform to go back and experience one of the best installments in this franchise. From there we have Yoshi's Woolly World, and at one point in time, in case you guys weren't aware, it was like all the rage for game developers to try to make kind of cutesy games with yarn. We had Kirby's Epic Yarn, we had Yoshi's Woolly World, a lot of different like fabrics based graphics in games. And while I'm not the biggest fan of the graphical style in Yoshi's Woolly World, I still think it's a very fun gameplay experience, as I did grow up in that SNES and N64 era, and I have super heavy nostalgia for games like Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, and then Yoshi's Story in the N64 era. So for me personally, I really enjoyed this game because it is very much a callback to that era of games, and of course that classical Yoshi style play with aiming the eggs, different platforming sections, very fun boss fights. Like through and through, this is a quality Yoshi game, and I think there's a broad audience on the Nintendo Switch that would absolutely enjoy playing this, and one that would really be able to come over without too much work at all. And I think you could say that for the majority of Wii U titles out there, because unless if they were heavily based around that touch input on the tablet controller, most games already look good enough if you just port them over one-to-one on the Switch. And so this one to me would absolutely make sense to bring over before the Switch's life cycle as well. Now the last two, I'm sure you can already guess what they are, as I've talked about them numerous times here on the channel, and I'll kind of lump them in together since I don't think we're going to see them launch together anymore. I think at one point in time that was highly likely if it was going to be marketed as part of the Zelda's 35th anniversary, but since that ship has come and gone and it has sailed, well, we now have to deal with the reality of Nintendo most likely, if they bring them over at all, and I still think they will, that they will be individual releases and not a bundle price package of $60 for 2 games. I think we get these $60 a piece like they've done every other Wii U port that has come over to the Switch so far. And of course, I'm referencing Zelda Windwaker HD and Zelda Twilight Princess HD. And for all of the new Zelda fans that got into the series from Breath of the Wild, these are two of the standout all-time favorite 3D Zelda games, period. And I think fans have to have the option to go back and experience these incredible games. Now, they are very different at their core. Wind Waker is like one of the most unique Zelda games in the way that you are truly in a open island area, and you can sail from island to island on a boat for the first time ever, and it's a grand adventure. It was one of the best stories. I think the story is very undersold. There was a lot of controversy around the graphical style for this game when it was first showed off to the fans, because up to that point in time, Ocarina of Time was of course praised as like the best Zelda adventure ever, and it had that more adult feel to it. And we even saw things like a tech demo on the GameCube with ultra realistic Link style and versus Ganondorf style graphics happening, and everybody lost their minds thinking that that's what's in store next. And surprise, surprise, Nintendo does a Nintendo thing and delivers a cartoony, cel-shaded art style for the next Zelda installment with only a child Link, and his face is very expressive, and it looks like it's marketing towards a younger audience. However, if you just wrote it off as that, you did unfortunately make a huge mistake, as this is truly one of the best stories in a Zelda game, period. I mean, I won't spoil everything, but you have the King of Hyrule directly involved in the main story plot of this. You have an epic duel with Ganondorf. Like, this is a great Zelda game by all accounts through and through, and has some incredible dungeons, incredible exploration, and really interesting characters and plot progression as you go along. So this is a 10 out of 10 Zelda in my opinion, and one that of course, if you like the Breath of the Wild style, while it's not that, because that was literally a whole new direction for the Zelda formula, this is at its core what a 3D Zelda game should deliver through and through. Now then you transition to Twilight Princess, which in my opinion feels like a next-gen version of Ocarina of Time as far as what they try to set out in the grand adventure. Many dungeons, classical exploration, you have Epona back, you have horseback combat like with your sword for the first time in a Zelda game, which is very exciting to all of the fans that saw that in the trailer, myself included. I still remember literally waiting hours and hours on end to try to load up a Zelda Twilight Princess on dial-up internet back in 2005 or 4, something like that, because that's all I had, and I waited all day just to see a glimpse of what Twilight Princess was going to have to offer. And was my mind blown? Yes, it was. This game is also up there with Majora's Mask in terms of the most dark adult feel in any kind of Zelda game, and I think that the cutscene and story and everything they have going on between the Twilight Realm and the regular realm, like, it is incredible and very captivating, and it has some incredible combat and even kind of an upgrade progression, as Link does get new attacks as he goes along in a very cool, like, you find a golden wolf mechanic, like, and then you transition to another place where I won't spoil anything on who that person is, but literally there's a lot of, you know, nuanced story details, and you feel like you're getting stronger as you go with Link. The weapons and items in there are incredible. Definitely was a huge fan of the gear wheel thing that allows, like, the Sand Temple boss is one that sticks out to me as one of my favorite dungeons ever, because you got that, I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, somebody let me know in the comments down below, but you get that gear wheel that lets you hop from wall to wall, and you're fighting like an epic boss with epic music all at the same time. Like, this game delivers on all fronts as well, and so I think it's a safe bet to say that as a hardcore Zelda fan such as myself, hopefully we get these one day, but it is something that if for some reason we don't, and you're a hardcore Zelda fan as well, and maybe you got brought into the series through something like Breath of the Wild, you need to go pick up a Wii U at some point and experience these games in HD, as the original versions are great, but in my opinion, the HD versions are far superior and definitely the way to enjoy these games in 2022 and beyond. So at this point in the video, guys, I want to hear from you on all your personal thoughts and opinions on what Wii U games that I'm sure, you know, wasn't on my top 5 list, what Wii U games do you want to see make it over to the Switch, and also share with me whether or not you think we still have a shot of getting some of these games over, or if you do really think that the ship has sailed now and Nintendo most likely will have just wrapped the bow on whatever Wii U ports they wanted to bring over, and what we have now is all we're getting. So I do look forward to hearing from you regardless of where you fall on these issues, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Make sure you check out yesterday's video if you haven't already, where we discuss Kirby and the Forgotten Land getting a free demo. We actually booted up together and I share my initial gameplay impressions, and spoiler alert, this game is fantastic and I'm very hyped for it to release on March 25th. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.